Hello, so in this video we are going to focus on creating some camera controls for a ball. I'm gonna start the game here to show you how it currently looks like. As you can see, I can move around, but I can't really look around. And in order to do that, we need to find a way to rotate the camera, or maybe even the spring arm, because the camera is connected to the spring arm. So if we move or rotate the spring arm component, the camera will rotate with it since it's connected to that spring arm. This is the spring arm component here, as you can see to the left. The camera is connected to it here. It's a child of spring arm. And since this is a child of the spring arm, the camera will follow it wherever the spring arm goes. Okay? So what we are going to do now is to focus on implementing camera rotation. A way to rotate around so we can look around in our surroundings, because currently we cannot really do that. So the first thing to do is we are going to create a variable here. I'm going to call it turning. Okay, and I'm going to drag it out and do a set. We are going to use a function called, let's see, mouse right button. The mouse right button, yeah, it's called right mouse button. This is an event that runs when the right mouse button is pressed. And if that is the case, I want to set this variable to true. I'm going to set it to false when that is not really the case. So now, with the help of this variable, we can keep track of whether we're holding the right mouse button or not. I'm doing this because I want to only rotate when we really are holding the right mouse button. Okay? So now we also need to read some values from the mouse, both for the x-axis, which means left to right, and the y-axis, which means from bottom to up. And in order to do that, we need to call another event. It's called mouse x. And I'm gonna get the turning variable here and drag from it and type branch. You can also hold down the B key and left click. That's a shortcut for getting a branch. So connect the turning to it and connect it here. And I want to only store this value of the mouse X only when we are turning. Okay, so I'm going to drag from here and promote this to a variable. I'm going to call it mouse X. I'm going to save it. So now we are saving it to a variable called mouse X only when we are turning. And I'm going to duplicate these two and do the same thing for mouse Y. All right. So I'm going to connect these. And let's drag from here and promote this as well. Mouse Y. Okay, I'm just gonna add some reroute nodes so we can clearly see what's going on here. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here. You can just double click on this wire here to get a reroute node. You can also search for it, I believe, if you just type reroute. Yeah, here you can see it says add reroute node. So currently we are having a right mouse button pressed here. We keep track of whether we press the right mouse button or not. And now we are also keeping track of the mouse X and Y values. We will use this to rotate around. Because whenever we move the mouse from left to right, we are reading the X values, and whenever the mouse goes from up to bottom, We are reading the y values of the mouse. So we are reading both directions. So how are we gonna use this? Well, we are having all the variables, but we need a tick function. So I'm gonna add it. Let's see. We can add the tick function. Yeah, I'm gonna add it down here. Event tick. Search for tick, and you'll find something called event tick. I'm gonna make some space here. I think it's a little bit too close. Okay. So really, in the tick, we are gonna make use of this turning, because we wanna only do this if we are turning. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, in order to rotate around, we are going to affect this spring arm. So I'm going to drag this out from the left here. Now we are having a reference to it. And really all we need to do here is to add some rotation to it, both in the X and Y direction. So you can drag from it and search for add relative rotation. Okay. Right click on this delta rotation and split struct pin. So you can see that this is relative to the current rotation. So it will add to whatever rotation it's currently having. So what are we going to add to its local rotation it's currently having? Well, we're going to add whatever we just read down here. These values here. As you can see, these comes from the axis mouse X and mouse Y. We're having axis values here. So for the z-axis, we are going to use mouse X. So I'm going to just connect it to the z-axis. And for the pitch, I'm going to use mouse Y. So this basically means that if you look at the yaw here, if you don't know what yaw is, roll, pitch, and yaw are really, these are really, well, terms of rotation, rotational terms. And what yaw really means is like, if you look at the character standing on the, if you look at the ball, I'm just gonna, let's do this instead. I'm gonna start the game. Let's see if I can. I need to minimize this. If you look here, maybe it's better if I show you in here. See, I want to see the axis values. If I open up the character here, the ball character, let's go to the viewport instead. Well, if you look here to the bottom left, you can see that we are having the z-axis here. That's the, when we talk about yaw, it means that the rotation around that axis. Okay, so yaw rotation means z rotation. In other words, rotation around the z-axis. So you can think of it as a circular rotation around the z-axis. So basically this means like if I select my ball here, let's see if I can even show you an example of that. Let's see if I can. I'm gonna check if I can rotate it down here. So no, that's not really possible. Well, at least you're having the spring arm component here. It's a camera component. Well, and you can see that we also have a camera component. What I can do is I'm gonna add a cube. And if you look at the, if you focus on the cube now, you can see that we are having this blue arrow here. We are having this green arrow and red arrow. The blue arrow is really the z-axis, and the green is the y, and the red is the x-axis, which is also by default the forward axis. So if I rotate around the blue axis here, you can see that if I just turn it around, you can see how it behaves. And this is exactly what we want. So I'm adding relatively a rotation to this axis. This means that the spring arm will rotate like this around, as you can see here. And we are doing the same thing for the pitch. And the pitch is really, if you think of the x-axis, but the rotation around the x-axis. And when we say around the x-axis, this is what happens. So you can see that we are moving up and down with our mouse. And we are moving around with our, well, with this direction here, with the z direction. So we're rotating around z, and we are rotating around x. If you're not sure how a rotation will behave, just add a simple cube and test to rotate with it to see, which direction it goes around. It took me a while until I got comfortable with those rotational terms, really. But you will get used to it. But especially for beginners, those terms can be a little bit confusing in the beginning. All right, so I'm going to delete that cube again because we don't need it anymore. And now we are having the ball, the spring arm component. So now you will understand how this rotation will work. So now we are having this tick event with turning set to true here. So what I'm going to do is just click on play, new editor window here, Pi. I'm going to hold down the right mouse button. And as you can see, I can clearly look around. Excuse me. And really, it makes it a lot more comfortable because I can both rotate and move around at the same. However, there is one issue here. If I rotate the camera to the right 90 degrees and press forward, you can see that it's still going to this direction. And really, what I want to do here is like, I want to be able to look around, especially when I'm standing still, so I can, study my surroundings. But what I also want to do is to be able to reset the camera to the default view. So the camera is really looking at the direction that is actually forward. The reason for that is because if I click forward now, you can see that it goes to left, but really the camera should be like this instead. You can see that if I click forward now it goes forward and not to the left anymore. So this is a matter of, from which viewpoint we are looking at the ball. But what if you're moving around like this and you're not really sure which one is forward, backwards, left, or right anymore? Well, that is the reason for why we are going to implement this reset functionality. And we are going to do that in the next video, and then you will see how this will work. But really, we want to be able to quickly reset our view so you can understand very quickly which way is forward. But the good thing with this is that now we can easily look in our surroundings and study our surroundings, and it makes it a lot more fun. All right, so we are gonna work on this even in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one.